before you settle down to enjoy this tape, we'd like to tell you the story about what happened to the last person who attempted to make pirate copies. Our dog, Fido, just loved him. He loved him to death. FBI warning. Fido has big incisors.
Here's to your success. You are now looking at the #1 product. No, it's not the studio, it's me. I'm the #1 product around here. Come in, let's go inside and we'll tell you why. This is probably the most important wall in my whole reception area. I call it the brag wall. When people come in to book me or to be photographed, when they see all the certificates and the qualifications and all the awards, they think, wow, he must be good. They don't even need to see my work. They just know I'm going to be good. What we're showing in the studio, in the reception area, is canvas portraits. That's portraits embedded into canvas. That's what our clients come here for, that's what they see, that's what they buy. And that's where all the money is, in the canvas portraits. They can buy other things as well, smaller photographs, and they can come from memory lane, that's restorations. But basically, our main product is portraits in canvas. This is the most important piece of equipment that we have in our studio besides the camera. It's a computer, and the program that we have on it is the Photographic Manager by SCP. First of all, it's so easy to use that even I can use it. In the morning we just come in, switch on the machine, and straight away it prints out all the orders that need to be ready within the next 2 days. Now before we had this, people used to come in the studio and say, you promised our order for today, why isn't it ready? And we used to have notes everywhere, get so-and-so's order ready, and it was really a headache. Now we know in advance who will come in. On their invoice it's printed, your order will be ready in such and such a time, on such and such a date. So we know straight away everything that's happening in the studio. All the portraits are in there, the names of the children are in there with the birthdays, so if you want to send out birthday lists and birthday cards to people, it just spills out the computer. Let me take you on a tour of the premises. The first door along on the right is the camera room. This is where I take all the photographs. It's not a big studio, it's about 25 foot by 12 feet. But we make every inch count. The ceiling is 10 foot high, and we have the Bowen's High Glide on it, which saves extra floor space. Everything is remote control right from here. Now we'll go over to the viewing room, which is along the corridor. On the way we have the changing room. And this is the viewing room. Everything's air conditioned, so everybody's nice and cool, even on a hot day. And this is the most important room in the whole place, because here is where I make the money. Here we create desire in them to buy wall portraiture, canvases to hang on their walls. This is where it all happens. Project onto this wall, which you'll see soon, and they buy the images they see. Again, only a small room, about 12 foot by 10, but every inch here is pure money. Through here we do all the work, it's a workroom. do all our own canvas mounting. That's embedding the prints into canvas. There's just one ready over here at the moment. Let's take it out. Lovely. It's hot. That's now become a canvas portrait rather than just a flat piece of paper. And it commands a much higher price. Along here is our laboratory. Susan is just retouching all the small prints. Everything that comes out of here is retouched and enhanced. And signed. My signature is on everything. Ken is the lab manager. At the moment he's doing the machine prints. Through there is the dark room where all the hand enlargements are done. And the C41 process. Here everything from 5/4 to 10/8 is done over here. This is the machine it comes through. Just a print coming through at the moment. This is the next wall portrait for a customer. As soon as it's out, we take it over to be retouched, enhanced. Any work that needs being doing on it will be done. Okay, Susan. Next print is here. Okay, we need to darken this area over here. This needs a bit darkening as well. Second reflection taken out of the lights. The reflection is down here a bit. The airbrush that a bit over there. A little bit of blue. Leave it blue there. It's a little bit blue light. Okay. Right. That's all the difference between machine print, that nothing happens to it, and a quality wall portrait where everything is done to it. Spots, reflections, everything's taken out. It's absolutely perfect. It's something they hang on the wall and they're going to live with it forever and admire it. And people will admire it and they'll come back to me for more all the time. That's the idea in creating a successful business and marking a successful business. How are we doing over here?
I'm going in the machine for heat sealing. Few minutes, come out, we'll peel a few minutes, it will come out, we'll peel the print, and then we'll put it onto canvas.
The pressure's building up in this hot press mount, and when we get the canvas ready, which is the best quality canvas money can buy, pre-bond dry mount canvas. It's already adhesive coated, so you don't need to put any adhesive over it. As soon as it heats up, its adhesive becomes tacky, and the print is embedded permanently into it. Let's check to make sure it's perfect. It's ready to come out.
This is ready to come out. Yeah, it is. Let the pressure out.
It's like a pressure cooker. Brilliant machine.
We don't worry about the lines, they come off with white spirit.
Now the print is protected with a heat seal. So it's now totally washable.
I'll leave it there to cool down a few seconds, it'll be easier to peel. Now this is the most difficult part of canvassing, is the peeling of the print away from its...
The backing paper. We have to separate the emulsion from the backing paper, and that's the secret of good canvases. Get as much paper off as possible. That's where Tony gets her muscles from.
Codecs sometimes change their paper, and it gets more difficult. The other corner. Got to do it nice, slow and steady. Got to be careful here. We try to get it as even as possible. There we are. We've got nice big backing paper of the print.
Now I have the emulsion with the print and the heat seal.
Now we take our piece of canvas. We've got to cut some of the canvas off, because otherwise it will stick. It's got to be covered with a heat seal. I need a new pair of scissors. And now I can go ready to go in the machine. To get it flat now, so I don't get any creases, because accident can still happen. It's quite a complicated process. Get it as flat as possible by hand, and then just put it in for pressure for about a good 3 minutes. Put our sponge over it. And it goes in for 3 minutes. While this is cooking, I can get my piece of card ready and the film to stick the canvas on the card.
We mount all our canvases onto card, which we call masonite, sounds much better. And we don't put them on stretchers, because we found that when we put them on stretchers, people used to come back after a year or two when the canvas became all floppy, and we had to re-stretch it. Or if we had ready-made frames and the canvas on the stretchers was a 1/4 of an inch too small, we couldn't use the frame. This way, by mounting it onto the masonite, we can have any frame we like, and it never will flop. The canvas, that is.
We're actually now waiting for the canvas to come out. This is our heat seal film, which is pre-holed. This is our
made by Demco.
Made by Demco from Prybond Reimann. This is our film, as I showed you here. We also have a cold laminator. We can tell you about this while we're waiting for the canvas to get ready. Charles, do you want to talk about that one?
All our exhibition prints, we mount very high gloss. It looks absolutely wet. This is the sort of look they like in America, and the look that is very, very punchy and dynamic. So we do this on all the prints that are going in for exhibition and competition. Very simple process. You just put a piece of acetate over it and roll it through.
I think Sue, if you want to bring that 10/8 you've just retouched in, Charles will show us how to put it. No, the 10/8. That's it.
Right, that's lovely. Nice job, Sue. Okay, we got some scissors. It's a bit too big. We don't need such a large piece. We're going to high gloss this. Make it look as if it's wet. Get the pressure right. It just needs to be a little bit of pressure, not too much. And we need to peel the backing of this away from the adhesive. That's the release paper. This part is very adhesive. Line up just there at the edge. Like so, press it down. And it's just like a closed mangle now. We just put it to the edge. There. Pull back the release paper and roll it through. It comes out looking absolutely wet. The highest gloss you can ever imagine.
Right, our canvas is ready. We still don't worry about the white lines. They'll be wiped off. It's all on the top.
The white lines are only adhesive.
Adhesive from the sponge.
This is now embedded into the canvas. The print and the canvas have become one.
Now all we do is to put it on car and it goes back into the machine. As you saw the other one coming out. Got a bit of adhesive sticking out here. I've got to cut it out, otherwise it will stick on the sponge. That's it, all ready to go in. Again for the last time.
There's adhesive at the end there.
It's not adhesive. Yes it is. I've got some adhesive still here on top. Some here. That's fine. In for the last time. This will be ready about 2-3 minutes. And once it's ready, it can go in the frame. That's it. Easy, isn't it? You can all do it. Easy.
We're outside my studio in Enfield. We're on a main road, the Enfield to London Road in fact. Very many cars, so I'm speaking up as loud as I can. There are a tremendous amount of cars coming through. I'm by the side of a BMW agency and the finest restaurant in North London, and a hairdresser's. I used to work from home, and after about 3 years I got 365 weddings from home, and I had to leave home to the studio to gain a home. Now let's go inside and see what my studio's like. Inside, it's a compact studio measuring something like 22 by 45, and we've got that basically in 3 sections, and here we have the reception, and we are doubled up in there as reception, which we'll walk through in a moment, then the printing and the laboratory area. I've just drawn your attention that relates to the raffle box, which we will talk to about later, about drumming up some extra business. In business. The studio, as I say, we did a lot of weddings. The most we've ever done is 486 weddings in 1 year, and that's with the help of 12, 14 photographers that I've trained up myself. My wife works very closely with me. My secretary is on my right hand side now. My wife is working in the back with more staff. It's after hours, and we have a late open evening. Around here we have pictures from all my photographers, not just me, because if I just put my photographs in there, someone might come up and say, well, where is the quality that your photographer did on my wedding? Where is the photography on the wall to show me it's exactly the same? So we have my photographer, we have my studio's photographers, really good work, but it isn't just the same as mine. I have my own prices. I have some of my awards at the back of me, but I don't overdo my awards. The reason for this is that I don't want to turn everybody away. There are some people that think that maybe I may be too good for them. When we did the royal wedding, I had people say, well, perhaps you wouldn't want to do my wedding because I did the royal wedding, and they felt bad about it. But I'd like to show you a little bit more around the studio. We're going to the actual studio area itself, the camera room. This area is my camera room that doubles up as a work room, a selling room, and an overspill for the reception. Just here is an area of 12 feet by about 18 feet where my backdrop comes up, and my backdrops roll down, and I photograph in here about 300 studios a year. That's anything from a little baby to a group of 19 in this area. Very nicely adjusted, everybody just right, nicely placed. I also photograph about 250 dogs in here a year as well. I have 5 lights set up. I do have over the other side the phone's ringing, and that is a little bit, took me a little time to get over that, to get my mind together on it. But I've done it, and people seem to like the photographs that I do. I only take the studio. I'm the only one that takes the studios, but I do something like 100 weddings personally a year, and the rest of my staff do the other 300 odd. So we'll go through to the back here and just see what's happening on a Monday night, which is our opening night. Linda's just here, and she is sorting out some photographs at the moment. This is the office area, so that, and it's only a very small separation. We have everything here, the fax. If you ring me, this is where I should probably take the call. We have our computer here, another computer in the front. but we're not so computer orientated as Charles is. All the work is piled up and waiting for collection. Go through now to the main room. You know, in here is my storage of my negatives, and I have about 8 years of work in here. Each one of these drawers contains 12 they're 2 1/4 square negatives, and each there's a complete job in there for easy handling. Go through into the printing area where Janet is here, who's been with me now 11 years. She'll probably say 12 years or something. 13 years. Time flies when you're having fun, Janet. And Janet today has done something like 1,300 prints from the weddings that we did over the weekend. It's now in June, so we're starting to get a little bit busy. But more work will come in tonight because of our open evening. Janet Printer, she's an excellent first-class printer. She's used to this Dyer machine which we use all the time for our work. Before I started in wedding photography, I was a technician, a colour technician, and it was a natural thing for me to do my own colour. But I got too busy, so I had to ask Janet whether she would do my work for me here, and she really is an excellent printer. We have there Koreanite at the back, same as Charles. There we go. We have a C41 machine for processing our films, and a 26-inch Koreanite with the work just finishing from over the weekend. This is 8x6, and you can see that we have not a lot of room here. I'll say we just finished this roll, so I'll just tear it off, put it up there for someone to collect it. We can do large prints. Behind me we have the larger room, 5/4 to 35mm, going up to 30x24 prints, and I have masking techniques in here which I do for various different things. Well, back now to Charles's studio.
We're the #1 product around here. People come because they want us. You agree with that, Pete?
Yes. They all want us.
They like the way we look, the way we behave, the way we treat them. For instance, the way we dress. I didn't dress up for this video. This is the way I come to the studio every morning of the week. I dress for my customers. They like the way I look and the way I speak. I always have breath fresheners on me so I don't smell of anything. And that's why they come. They love the way we are.
Yeah, we're natural. When we take photographs, then we may start off as being strangers, but we end up as being part of the family.
Mm. We're their friends. We're making them look good, and they know it. They trust us to make them look good. If they don't have the confidence in us to make them look good, they don't come to us. So that is probably the most important thing, that we project the image, that we can give them confidence, we'll make them look terrific. We start from there.
If you're not a person that likes people, then you may want to get into another form of photography. But if you're a people person, then what we do, social photography as we call it in Britain, is just right for you.
So how do we get started in it?
Yeah.
We're all exactly the same, so we're all born babies as far as I know. And from what we do with our lives, that's what we become. So I actually started with nothing. I didn't actually have a camera when I first started in photography. I had no camera, but I wanted to become a photographer. I never advertised, never ever. I've never had an advert anywhere, have you?
No, not at all.
No. Well, I wanted to become a director, film director. That was my greatest ambition in life, to become a film director. So I went to film school for 2 years. And the time I graduated from film school, the very last thing I wanted to be was a film director. what I'd like to be was a director of photography. That really interested me, and it was my ambition to become a director of photography. But I found that it was very difficult to get into that sort of business, and you have to rely on a lot of other people, and basically I thought I'll start on my own. I don't like to take people bossing me around, so I went into still photography. I did pop groups, the Nikon, the cheapest Nikon I could buy. I started doing pop groups, and when I first met the girl I was going to marry, I had no money, because pop groups is a very precarious business. You get money one day and the rest of the month you have no money at all. And she said, well, why don't you do wedding photography? I said, what? Not wedding photography? Ooh, that's really boring. I mean, after doing pop groups, although they didn't get paid for it, but to do wedding photography is really boring. But she said, well, there's a man in the town that I live in, Antwerp, and he has 3 apartments. He has a lovely villa on the seaside. He has a fabulous car. He goes on holidays, and all that. He has some wedding photography. So I thought, well, I want to get married. I need the money. All right, I'll do wedding photography. So how I got started, I put an advert, a picture of a singer in a restaurant, and one day somebody rang me up and said, would you like to come round and show me your work for the wedding? That's how I started. I got down to the house, I put up a few pictures of pop groups and lady singers, and they said, oh, it's very nice, very creative, but what about weddings? I said, well, actually, I haven't done weddings before. And the father looked at me and said, well, how dare you come to me for my daughter's wedding and you haven't done a wedding before? How can we trust you to do a wedding? His daughter said, well, because he hasn't done a wedding before, he'll put a lot of energy into it. I said, yes, that's right, yes, I will. And they were arguing between themselves, the father and the daughter. In the end, the daughter won, and I was booked to do the wedding. I had no equipment, and I couldn't do it on that Nikon. So I had to rent a camera for the weekend. I was told that you must have a 2¼ camera, so I rented a 2¼ Rolleiflex, and I had to practice with it. I couldn't get used to looking down, and everything was the wrong side. So I had to practice a Friday and a Saturday, going through the door and looking where everything was, left, right, and right, left. So that's how I did my first wedding. And they wanted a movie at the same time. So that's how I first got started. No equipment, just hired it, and did the first wedding. From that wedding, all my other weddings came. I had 3 weddings from that wedding, 4 from the following wedding, and my reputation got better and better. I did better and better work, and that's how I got into wedding photography. How about you?
Yeah, well, I put my hand up at school when I was 14 and a half to join the local photographer who wanted an assistant. And I worked for him for 6 weeks when I was 15, full-time, and I got the sack, and he said I'd never make a photographer. Well, that man chose my profession, and he also gave me the determination to prove him wrong, because from there I lost a lot of confidence, and confidence is the main thing that we need in photography. I lost a tremendous amount of confidence. My parents wanted to put me into a flour mill or something, and because I was a big, strong lad. But I wouldn't go. I wanted to get a job, so I looked for a job up in London, in the dark rooms up in London, just off Fleet Street. And I stayed in my first job, or my second job then, but for 4 years, doing everything from making raw chemicals right up to printing 14 feet black and white. And I really stayed a technician for 16 years. But I did wedding photography, which I liked since the age of 19, which I did on the weekends. And I even had my own business with about 40 staff, 8,000 square feet in the middle of London. But I never saw my wife. And my wife phoned me up one day and said, Peter, I've got to say that advertising, working like you are, is not doing our business any good. A bit like tonight, really.
Yes.
And
we're talking to you 1 o'clock in the morning, actually.
And it's not doing our relationship any good. And I think we've made £20 a week from wedding photography for the last 6 months. That's about $40. I think we can go on our own. So I came home that night. Next day I gave my partners 3 months' notice, and I've not looked back since, because I've travelled all the way around the world in photography, taking photographs, looking at other people from other parts of the world, have an incredible time, having many holidays all over the place. In fact, I've worked out I've been to about 40 countries, different countries, and I've revisited them about 55 times. So, you know, I've done a lot of travelling, and we really enjoy it. I know you've done a lot of travelling as well. So it's all done through wedding photography.
Most fantastic profession in the world. We're very lucky to be in it.
And portrait photography.
And portrait photography, yes. And we're very lucky to be in it, in this sort of profession.
Yeah.
But I hope it shows that we actually started from nothing. We didn't start with parents who gave us the business. We started from nothing. So can you.
Yeah.
And we didn't advertise. So how would we advise somebody who was like us, how would they start today? Well, I believe, first of all, if you're going into a community, you have to live there. You can't just travel into a community in the daytime and go back at night. You have to live in that community. Get a house there or flat, whatever, and live there. And join the trading association, the groups of the charity, the local trading office, Department of Trade in the area. Anything you can join, join. Send your kids to the school, get involved with the school, the parents teacher association. You have to become part of the community and work with the community so they know you and get to like you. You always have to be very pleasant, well dressed, well mannered. You can't drive around in the car shouting at people and hooting at people. Get out of the way, because oh, that guy is terrible. He may be a good photographer, but is he terrible? What a nasty person. If you get a name like that, you might as well pack up and go to a different community. So you get established in the community. Then I would suggest you get your work shown. The way to get your work shown is to photograph local dignitaries, photograph bank managers in the area, whoever you can, the local MP, free of charge. Give them the pictures. That is the best way of advertising.
Yeah, and have a display of that work up.
Yeah, put it in the banks. If you photograph with bank managers and then put a display up in the banks, that's a great form of advertising. We need people to talk about us. If they don't talk about us, that's no good. Now, when I look at a person in the street, I see a roving billboard. Because every person walks around with a mouth on them and carries the message around to 200 other people. I feel that everybody in the world knows about 200 people. When they go to a party, there's 200 people. To a funeral, there's 200 people. To a wedding, there's 200 people. So they know 200 people. If they like somebody, they will tell 200 people what a good guy or what a good lady this person is. If they dislike them, they will tell them as well. So in fact, every customer you have, or every potential customer you may have, is extremely important. It is no good trying to satisfy most customers and not worrying about some of them. Every single customer is a number one important customer, because if you don't satisfy one, 200 people will hear about it.
Yes. You must remember that what we're talking about is building up a reputation all the time through our own work, and there are other ways of doing it, but those ways of doing it, like having a representative, but a representative, I can show you, I had 6 reps when I was up in London in advertising, but those representatives have your work in their hands, and if they move, they take your work with them. No matter how good you are, they're going to take a certain percentage of their work with you. You can also be in with function rooms and with other people, but you still owe your allegiance to them, and if they move and they stop giving you work, then you've had it. So the best thing is to build your own reputation up.
And the personal reputation is the best. You become a personal friend to them.
Yes.
That's the way to do it. Become a personal friend.
We've joined groups. We're fellows of this, that and the other. We're master craftsmen. We're fellows of BIP, British Institute of Professional Photography. We're master craftsmen. I'm just a fellow of the ASP, and I know you're well on your way for that as well. What do you think about joining groups?
I think it's important because it gives you a goal to aim for. Again, you want people to talk about yourselves. So we need to have things they can talk about, like winning awards. If you become an associate of the IPP or the British Institute, people will talk about it. It's written up in the paper. That advertising is the only advertising that pays, because putting an advert in the paper saying, I am a great photographer, anybody can do that. So that doesn't mean anything. What it does mean is if you have editorial and they write about you and they say this local person has now become an associate or a fellow of the British Institute of Professional Photography.
Or even licensure.
Even licensure, yes. So you'll start with somewhere. Anything that you do is newsworthy. If you take a photograph of the local MP, that is newsworthy. take it and send it into local paper, the picture, and they will publish it. People will see it and they'll say, oh, Joe Bloggs, he's the new guy in the area, new photographer. He's taking a picture of the MP. Well, if he's good enough for him, he's good enough for us. Maybe we'll take our children to him.
And people want to try out someone who is new. They like to see what they're like, because there may have been a photographer in your area for a long time doing the same old work, and they're a little bit tired, the images are tired, and they'd like to try and find out someone who's new and exciting. And you could be that person.
Now, the best way to get into portraiture is actually doing wedding photography, because when you go to a wedding, there are so many hundreds of people there, and everybody has children or family, and they want to have photographs. So when they see you at a wedding, that is when your reputation starts growing. So if you behave professionally at the wedding and dress smartly and speak well and take really good photographs, people will come to you for portraiture. So the easiest way to get into portraiture is to do weddings.
What do you think about further education, Charles? I know that with my own daughter, it was either she was going to go for a college education in photography, or she was going to work for a fellow, a master, a man at the top of his career, or a woman at the top of his career. And I advised her to go and work for a master, because she could earn a great deal, and she was very, very, very good, the master.
I personally think it's better to work for a photographer and gain experience that way than actually go to very high qualifications in a photography school, because many photographers, I think like myself, would hesitate in taking somebody who's a fully qualified photographer who's studied everything and knows everything, or think they know everything, and come to work for the photographer thinking, oh, that's it, can't tell us anything, we know it all. Because every photographer has got their own method. If I employ somebody to work for me, I want them to work the way I want them to work, not the way somebody in the art school or in the photographic college has taught them. So I personally would prefer taking somebody who is completely fresh but artistic, because you can teach somebody artistic to become a photographer, but you cannot teach somebody who is a photographer to become artistic.
Yeah, very true. If you're going to teach people right from the word go, you're teaching them your ways. You're not trying to get them out of bad habits, which they've already got in with someone else. Getting out of bad habits. I know I was allowed to do some photography for someone, and it took me about 12 years to get out of some bad habits from those people. They were very good to me, those people, but I did get some bad habits. The work that I did a long time ago, people come up to me and still say that it's still good now, even though that the fashions have changed. I don't know how you'll find that, but my own work, it seems to me that I had a movement, and I was already
you were different.
doing something. Yes.
Yeah. We need to be different, to be seen to be different. Do different things to what other people are doing. If you're copying somebody else all the time, well, the customer will think, well, why should I go to this person? I'll go to the other one. But if you're different, I'll say, wow, this photographer is really different. Let's try him for a change, or her for a change. And again, with children, it may be difficult to photograph children, but boy, if you get into photographing a set of kids, they will be with you for years. You see, most children, they fall into two categories. One is the shy and clingy, and the other one is the wild and confident. Now, the shy and clingy is the one that's always going onto mummy and doesn't want to let go. And you have to, you have to talk with them and play with them and get them to like you. And once you get them to do that, which may take half an hour, it may even take an hour of a session, but once you can get them away from the mummy and they actually like you, they may actually become wild and confident, and they're yours. Now, if that parent wants to take that child somewhere else, she'll remember that it took a long time for the photographer to get that child to stop being shy and clingy. So that child is yours. The same with a wild and confident child. They'll come in and they'll throw everything all over the place and make a big noise and everything. And the parent won't know what to do. They'll say, oh, well, yes, he's rather confident. Now, the first thing to do is keep that parent out of the camera room, because that child is only showing off to the parent. It probably doesn't receive enough attention most of the time. And the way to receive attention is to become naughty and wild. So you keep the parent out of the camera room and get that child in the camera room and treat that child like it's an adult. Talk to that child, and that child will come to respect you, and you'll get some great shots. Now, if any time the mother wants to take her child, her wild child, to another photographer, you can rest assured the boy or girl will throw a tantrum.
Yes. You've seen on our you can see on our portrait tape how Charles got the very, very crying girl, little Helen. Just she was crying all the time, and then he just got her just like that. Just had to wait for a split second, a tenth of a second, for her to be right, and he took the photograph. And he worked with everything. If you've got that tape, which you should have, you can see exactly how he's working. You had spontaneity there, though,
Yes,
didn't you? And spontaneity really is what is needed now. People want spontaneity. They don't want fixed expressions, fixed this, that, and there. They want to be different to.
Well, with children, you can't really pose them all that much because they will do their own thing. But to get really lovely expression is what it's all about. And the parent wants to see this lovely expression. And if you have some really great expressions of children, you will make a sale and you'll sell the pictures for them. They'll be on the walls. That's where the advertising is. I don't advertise anywhere. You also don't advertise anywhere.
No.
Our adverts are hanging on people's walls. That's what we sell. And every picture that goes out of here is an advert. And it's signed. The most important advert that I have that comes out of my studio is that every picture, if it's a 5x4 print or a 40-30 canvas, it is signed by me personally. Not in one of the ka-chunk machines which emboss a gold signature. That doesn't mean anything. That's not art. Picasso wouldn't put his portraits into a ka-chunk machine. He'd sign them personally. Everything that is signed personally means the person who signed them thought that it's worth signing, that it's a work of art. It's another thing is, it's a great quality control, because anything that leaves my studio, I know, I have seen, I have liked, the colour was great, everything was fine, and I put my guarantee on it by signing it. When it goes out the studio, it is signed, it goes into a folder which has my blocking on it, that goes into a box which has my colour logos on it, and it goes into a bag which has my logo on it. So that is the advertisement. Now, the money that I save from spending into a newspaper, which would be absolutely useless, I will spend on advertising my product in their home. They carry it out as they walk in the street with the carrier bags with my name. That is the best advertising that money can buy.
Yes. Well, I did, before I signed my name on my pictures, I did have a lady that refused to give her best friend my name for her wedding pictures. And the girl eventually found me after about 6 months and said, "I've been looking for you, but my best friend wouldn't allow me to." She only wanted to have the best pictures. She didn't want her best friend. Well, she wasn't really a best friend, was she?
No, she wasn't a good friend.
We do some lecturing now and teaching. Lecturing with everybody coming up to you, you know, can go to your head, and I think people shouldn't get bloated. That because really, where it is actually taking the photographs, actually getting down on your knees to the child, actually dealing with the temperamental mother-in-law or whoever. I mean, I don't often get temperamental mother-in-laws, but dealing with all those, dealing with all those problems. And if you start teaching and teaching and teaching, then it gets out of hand. You start losing the art of your photography. And just staying perhaps just in the studio all the time, also you start to lose your art. You've got to move things around. You've got to use different equipment, and you've got to start to use different locations. If you're always stay at one function hall all the time, or only in your studio and you don't go out, you are going to start getting jaded, unless you're an extremely artistic person who can get something very different out of the same 6 feet of square canvas. It's you've got to move around and do different things all the time. I don't know what you feel about. We've seen a lot of people with bloated egos, haven't we?
That's right. That's why we always have to learn. We're just like a plant. If it stops growing, it wilts and it dies. You may think we know everything. Gosh, these two know everything. We don't. We're learning all the time. We're learning just like you're learning. But it's like building a house. You know, sometimes when if you buy a house and it's derelict, you have to build room by room, brick by brick, until you've got this house finished. But when it's finished, you're still not finished. You have to start redecorating the first room that you built, because the time has come to decorate it. Same with us. We've always got something to learn. We may have to travel further to learn it. We may have to go to the States, maybe even outer space one day to find something new. But we always want to learn. We always want to advance our technique, to do better images, to do a better product, to give greater satisfaction, so that we will always be seen to be different and always be able to sell something new to our customers, because these customers keep on coming back. It's not that we see them once and that's it, or once in 5 years or 10 years. People come back all the time for us.
I don't know about you, Charles,
important.
but I get most of my work through the telephone. People come
Yes.
through the door, but most of my work comes through the telephone.
I would say about 50%
And so
comes
a
through
lot
the door.
a lot of people ask us straight away what we charge.
Yeah. How much is a 10.8?
Yes.
That's the usual thing.
Yeah.
We, in our studio, for a portrait session, we are very, very cheap. I'm probably one of the cheapest photographers besides Peter in the UK, because with our qualifications, I charge $17.50 for a session.
Yeah, I charge 15.
Now, I suppose we're not supposed to talk prices really, but we're not showing off how much we charge. We're showing off how little we charge. So there can be no harm in that.
Yeah, because we want to get people
We want to get
in.
people in. That's right. And for that, I offer at least 3 changes of clothes. You should bring 3 changes of clothes with them. Changes of background. If they have 2 children, I would take them separately and together. Family group, the mother, without the mother, even the mother separately. I will do 2 or 3 rolls of film if need be. And it's 220, so I could take 40 or 60 photographs. I won't show them everything. I will edit it down to the very best 1520.
Film is the cheapest thing that we
Sure.
have.
If we had to open a boutique of clothes, we'd have to invest thousands of pounds to have a nice selection. All we need to do is to buy some rolls of film and expose them when we have a customer in. But we need the people inside. And if you're going to charge 100, 200 pounds or dollars to get a portrait session, how many people do you think will come to you? If you're charging $17.50, which is £20 or $25, a lot of people will come. They'll think, well, what have we got to lose? If the worst comes to the worst and we don't like the pictures, all right, so it's cost us £20. So what? Let's try it. And when they come, we sell them by creating desire, which will show you how I do that.
Yeah, my friend says that we should sell them a pup. We sell them a pup. It's exactly, creating desire is the main thing in all the photography that we do, making the images so desirable that they want to take them home with them. But
When they bring up for a wedding, they say, well, how much do you charge for a wedding?
yes,
Well, first of all, we don't actually say we charge X number of pounds. We say, well, when is the wedding? And they say, oh, it's such and such a date. Well, could you wait a minute? We'll just check to see in the diary if we're still available. That's the first thing. So now they're wondering, oh, well, maybe he's still available. We say, yes, the date's fine. Now, where is the wedding? And if we start asking questions, and they say, oh, it's at such and such a hall. Oh, that hall is beautiful. And outside there's a lovely little corner, a little garden. I can take some fabulous portraits there.
but we're genuine about it.
Yeah, we're genuine.
Because
We mean
we
it. We
love
do
what
it.
we do.
And we will take great pictures in that
Yes.
part, because we do it all the time, because we have to.
And if we can talk a lot about it to them, and we know about them, may have some friends, we say, well, where did you hear about our name? And then you can remember those friends, because you do remember, because it's such a personal business. And then they're with you.
So
And
by the end of the telephone conversation, they haven't heard the price, and we haven't told them the price, but they have such confidence in us that we'll provide a really great coverage of that wedding, that they'll make an appointment to come and see us. And I say to them, there's no obligation. Come and see me. I'll show you everything that I do, give you all the prices. You don't have to sign, you don't have to buy anything, but just come and see me, and then you'll know it. Otherwise, it's like buying a wedding dress over the telephone. It won't mean anything. And they agree to that, and they come in. And that's how we get them in.
yes, it's exactly the same as us. And I think we ought to go on onto our booking form here.
Yes, because you
you've
have to
got
have a
it.
booking form. If you don't have a booking form, you could get into trouble. Because you can't promise people things and not keep the promises, or let them think that you've promised them something and you haven't. So it's very important to get everybody knowing what you're going to give them and how much that's going to cost them. Therefore, there'll be no way that they'll be unhappy.
Yeah. Well, you need it as well, so that you've got everything written down, so that if there is any mistake at all, you have everything written down, the time there. This week I did a wedding which was at 4 o'clock, but everybody else was told it was 3:30. I was told it was 4 o'clock, but if it had been round the other way, then it's very difficult. We have all the things down here, the time of the reception, the date, full name of the venue, the church, register office, or wherever the ceremony is going to be. And we're also asking whether it's a communion, a mass, or a normal service, so that we know how long that's going to be. And the full name and address of the reception. There's nothing worse than having just half a name, so we've got to sort that all out beforehand. And are they going directly to the ceremony, so that we know you know, they could get married at 2 o'clock and then go to the ceremony at 7. So we want to know that. All the grooms, the groom's name, the bride's name, their address, all their works numbers and faxes, so that we can phone them if anything goes wrong out of hours. And also, if we have any trouble, which we don't normally have, later of trying to get trying to get our money out of them, we have all these numbers down. We ask for the number of bridesmaids and page boys, because if we've got, say, 6 children, we think that's about the right number. We've taken all these photographs. If we've got 7 down there, we can say, well, where is the 7th? Because they say, oh, he's upstairs, just being done, and that may cause us a lot of harm later on.
I have also, there's grandparents, I have it written down there, how many grandparents there are. And once we came to the wedding in the house, and we went to the ceremony, and we came to the reception, and came to the group shots, and I'm looking on it says here, grandmother. And I said, well, where's the grandmother? And they're looking, so well, she's over here somewhere, where is she? And they can't find her. And in the end, they realised that they'd forgotten her at home. And there she was sitting at home with a mink stole, waiting for a taxi to come. She had no idea where the ceremony was, no idea where the reception was being held. And if I hadn't said on my sheet, there's a grandmother, where's the grandmother? She may have been sitting there till the end of the wedding, at home, waiting. So it doesn't happen very often, but it's important to have everything written down.
Yes, I have, besides the basic amount of money that they're to give us, I have a few things in here which will help us. This particular passage has helped us a great deal, which is, we use only the finest equipment throughout the company, and whilst we assure you of the very best attention at all times, we cannot be held responsible for any manufacturer's faults on sensitized materials or chemicals, nor other chemical or mechanical, electrical or optical faults. And just by putting that little proviso down, because we have done many thousands, over 10,000 weddings, and there is something that's going to go wrong somewhere along the line, which is beyond your control. If it's not beyond your control, which is beyond your control, but if it's your fault, then you admit it's your fault and you take the responsibility for it. But if something mechanically does happen, it's not your fault, you have a get out here.
Well, you do about 400 weddings a year. I only do 30 weddings a year. However, again, something can go wrong. So I think we'll look in more detail out the back, because I have a lot of things which cover me in case something should go wrong. Some of the key areas in the second side of the contract is that photographs. All photograph sizes are nominal. So if somebody says, well, it's a 1/4 of an inch under the size it's stated in the price list, you can say, well, it's written in the contract. The photographer will provide a pleasing colour balance based on the flesh tones of the subject, but cannot guarantee exact colour matching. Owing to anomalous reflectance caused by a combination of certain dyes and materials, especially man-made fibres, it is sometimes impossible to record on film the exact colour of a garment as seen by the human eye. Because sometimes people say, well, my dress was a different shade of green, and we just can't print it, or it won't come out on the video, that shade. So I think that covers us.
That dark velvet green is particularly hard colour to get.
And the photographer shall be granted artistic licence in relation to the poses photographed and the locations used. His judgment regarding the locations and the number of photographs taken shall be deemed correct. The photographer shall carry out the photography to the best of his or her ability. So they can't say, well, you didn't take us to enough locations. We thought we'll have 10 locations, we only had 5 locations. It's written down here. The other thing, which is sole rights, that the photographer shall be the sole professional photographer and videographer at the function.
Very important.
That's if you're doing both, which I do. I don't want anybody else there doing a second firm. Maybe they've got somebody doing it very cheaply and they say, oh, that can come as well, so he can cover some shots that maybe I have missed. No way. When they book me, they get me, all of me. They get the stills for all the portraits and the video for all the action. And that's how it works. So these are some of the important areas. But when they come to view discuss the consultation of the wedding and the prices, this is when I go through everything with them. After we've given them the prices, we go through all this together with them and explain why it's all written down here It's really to protect them so that they know they're getting the very best that I can give them. That comes out in the consultation.
It's most important they know what you're going to give them, and it's important that you know what they want. And just by experience, you're going to find out very quickly whether they are very loving and close touching couple, or whether they want, and so you would have creative pictures which are very soft and moody and loving, or whether they are want more the traditional type of picture. Now, I know some photographers that say, well, I only want to do some very warm, loving photographs, so if anybody wants just traditional, they're not going to take it. But I like to take everything I can, because if I just base myself on one style, then I reduce myself in my earnings. And so I have created many different styles, and so I might shoot in colour, in creativity, avant-garde, and standard, and I might shoot in black and white, and I might use those the black and white in very, very contrasty conditions, so that they do look more like magazine pictures, because people are seeing themselves in the magazine. They want to see that type of look. My background advertising, your background filming, it may be one of the reasons why we've got the stars, and our stars aren't the same, but we approach in similar ways on many. We're not clones of each other, but we approach things very similarly, and that may be why we have got what we've done now.
Yes, you see, everybody is different. Every wedding is different. Every person is different, and we have to provide something for everybody. If we just provide one type of service, we only can reach one type of person. If we want to attract the whole population, we have to provide something that everybody can relate to. The way I do it also after the consultation, when they've come to the studio and we've discussed the wedding work, and we went through everything, given all the prices, and they're all happy about everything, then I say, well, I'd like the bride and groom to come to the studio for an engagement session, which is completely free of charge. And it's for me, to enable me to find out which side of their face looks best. I will try out certain styles of light on them. I will get to know them. I will teach them posing, which will help on their wedding day for faster photography, so it won't waste any time. I'll find out what sort of poses they like. Do they like natural poses? Do they like romantic poses? All this we will find out here in the studio long before the wedding. So when it comes to the wedding day, I can turn up there as a friend who has photographed them and has produced the most fabulous photographs ever that they've ever had in their whole life long before the wedding. So at their wedding day, they will have total confidence in me, knowing that I will take exactly what they want and make them look the very, very best they're ever going to look.
Yeah, last year I did that and had quite a surprise when I did a free engagement photographs in the studio, and I found out that the girl had a wooden leg. And I wouldn't have found that any other way.
Her husband's found out she had a wooden leg before.
But I mean, that from the sublime to the ridiculous. But I was able to photograph them on on a wedding day, and not give any embarrassment to her, to ask her to sit down on the ground, because it was difficult for her to sit down. And so that information hadn't come over at all in anything until I photographed them at the engagement.
Sometimes we had the groom had a glass eye, and it wasn't that noticeable, but when it was at the engagement session, I really noticed that his eye didn't move, and I was wondering, I thought, that must be a glass eye. So I avoided him avoided the glass eye, that is, by taking him from a different angle, so that the eye is further away from the camera, and it wasn't so noticeable. And he loved all the photographs. He said it's the best set of photographs he's ever had. Now I knew for the wedding exactly where to place him, to the left of the bride, always at the left of the bride, so we avoid seeing the glass eye.
Yeah, a lot of people ask me, and someone did today, in fact, said, you know, what happens when you get a bride that isn't good looking? When you get an ugly bride, they say an ugly bride.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I don't feel there are any ugly brides. There may be ugly people who in their heart are ugly, but conventionally, a bride may not be what you thought was Marilyn Monroe, or whatever type you think. But if you try and look at them and feel human love for them, and just feel as much as you can. You are going to, with your expertise, which you learn through training, you are going to get the best out of that person.
There's a saying that beauty is skin deep and ugliness goes right down to the bone. But that is wrong, because there's more money in creating a beautiful portrait of somebody who's not that beautiful than somebody who's a fashion model. You can create the most exquisite picture of somebody who always takes beautiful photographs, and she'll say, oh yeah, I always look like that. But if you get somebody who is not that beautiful, who never comes out really very good in photographs, and the challenge is there, and you want to make her look really fabulous, boy, will you get orders from those prints, because she'll buy hundreds of them. She'll want everything you've taken because you've made her look so fantastic. So money-wise, it's much more rewarding to photograph people who are not beauty queens or who are models.
Yeah. But the girl next door.
The girl next door, who may be not that fantastic.
And really, really, really showing them off. Because that's what they employ us for, to show them off. We see all the little things that they do. It may be just balloons over the door of their house. But it may be much bigger things than that. But if we forget those things, then we're going to get the slap on the hand. But we don't forget those things. We see them and we sort them out. The other thing as well is I will never let any bride be upstaged by anybody else. If the bride is one of two sisters, and the other sister is conventionally good looking and she isn't, then I will use my expertise to put the bride into the right light, the sister into not such good light or such good angle, and pick out the very best design and put that girl into the right, really looking good. And I will not let any dominating mother go over the bride. It's the bride's day first of all, then it's the bride's, it's the groom's, but there's so much the bride's mother's day that no overpowering mother will ever look better than my bride.
Right, that's the most important thing. The bride is going to look fantastic. She put so much effort into that day, in the gown, in the hair, in the makeup. If she's not going to look good that day, boy, there's something wrong with us, not with her. It means that we haven't done our job correctly. So if we call ourselves professionals, it means we have to provide a professional print of that person to make them look absolutely fantastic, because they put all that work into it, into all the preparation to make sure that they're going to look great. We have to portray that using our knowledge of light, posing, and everything we've mentioned earlier on.
Yeah. Actually, it's a good idea for another tape, and I know we've got many tapes now, that we might have for all the faults, or so-called faults, and how to correct them.
Right, well, we have seen some in the lighting.
Yes.
We have to pose people so they look slimmer, hide the bulk behind the person in front, and the back to front, if you remember correctly. So we have done quite a bit of that.
Yes.
But there's always things to learn, so come back and learn more.
And there's always things that we can teach beyond, which we might just have in here, which we don't even know we've got.
That's right. I think we should talk about price list now.
Yes.
Now, I believe personally a price list is not a list of prices. That doesn't mean anything. A price list should be called a brag list. Because what a price list is really means to the person is, what is this photographer going to do for me? How good is this photographer going to be? The actual price list side of it is very ordinary. It doesn't mean anything. 10 by 8, it's X number of pounds. If somebody said to you, what is a 30 by 25 centimetre print? Would you know? Probably not. People don't know what a 12 by 10 is. Doesn't mean anything. When they see the size, they say, oh, that's too large, or that's too small. That means something to them. So the actual size itself doesn't mean anything. And the price is also relevant, because if you're going to make something look absolutely a work of art, is £100 expensive or cheap? Doesn't come into it. So really, what the price list should contain is a brag list about yourself, how good you are, what you're going to do for them to make them look good. And when they've read all the side of the price list, they should then realize, wow, this guy is really great, or this girl is really great. This photographer is going to make me look fantastic. Now, prices, oh, it doesn't really matter all that much. Looks okay, £20, £15, £12, that's not so bad, must be worth it. For all these qualifications, for all these awards, look what this person is going to do for me, prices doesn't come into it in the end.
No, people want you, and they want me, not because of the price, but because they want what we can give them.
Now, a lot of people in wedding photography, a lot of photographers, say, oh, we're trying to get out of wedding photography, we really hate it, there's no money in wedding photography. Now, Peter and I have not found that. Wedding photography has been fantastic to us. Peter's travelled the world, so have I, we've had fabulous holidays, we have lovely homes, all from wedding photography.
And a good life. We're meeting
And a great
people
life.
at the finest time of their lives.
So what is the difference? So why do we like wedding photography? Why can we make money out of wedding photography and other photographers can't? They want to get out of it because they think there's no money in it. Well, let me just give you a little story. Now, the lab, just think your friendly lab rings up and says, "Hi John, we have got a problem. Now, we print all your portraiture, and it's so easy to print your portraiture. It's all taken in the studio with the same lighting, the same background, it doesn't change, the exposure never changes, the posing never changes. It's so easy to print. It's beautiful. But the weddings, boy, do we have problems with your weddings. On one roll of film, we'll have some indoors, some outdoors, some candlelight, some tungsten, some overexposed, some underexposed. It takes us ages to print these films. It's just horrendous. It's a nightmare when we get one of your films from a wedding into our lab. It is a nightmare to process and print. So what I suggest we should do is we're going to charge you much more for doing your portraits." And you say, "Hold on a minute, no, you mean more for the weddings?" And the lab manager says, no, we're going to charge much more for us to do your portrait negatives than your wedding negatives. And you say, well, that can't be. You just told me it's so easy to print the portraits and so difficult to do the weddings. Surely you're going to charge me more for the weddings. He says, no, I'm going to charge you more for the portraits. Isn't that stupid? You agree, it's stupid, isn't it? But that's what most photographers do. They charge more for their portraits to the customer than they do for their weddings. So for instance, a 10x8 portrait print taken in the studio may be, let's say, £25. And a wedding tonate taken at a wedding, they will charge £5 or £8 or £10, much cheaper. Doesn't make sense, does it? No way it makes sense. In the studio, the person comes to the studio, it's so easy, they come to you, and your time, you can take as long as you want. That please me, it takes a long time. So you can do anything you want, you can create beautiful portraits, nobody's running after you, nobody's chasing you, you're not carrying any equipment around, not rushing in the rain, not being hassled by caterers or clergymen. It's so easy. But when it comes to a wedding, you have to go out on location under terrible circumstances, carrying loads of equipment, hoping nothing will go wrong, under duress, with no time to spend, and then you're giving them a cheaper price for the same 10.8. That is absolutely ridiculous. So, when you're designing a price list, may I suggest that a 10.8 is a 10.8. If it's taken in the studio or at the wedding, it is the same price. And if you charge the same price for the same size print, if it's in the studio or at the wedding, you will make money from wedding photography. And you'll begin to love wedding photography because you'll find there's so much money in wedding photography, it will be great.
Yes, I think a lot of people, particularly in America watching this tapes, have been ground down because of the length of their ceremonies and the reception afterwards. I've got one way of getting out of that, is that you are booked for a certain amount of time for the wedding. So you start at 12, and then when you've taken all the formals and everything at the function, which may be by 6 o'clock, then you go and leave your the other photographs to be taken by your assistant. It's one way. I know Charles may not want to do that, but it's one way that I have worked, and it seemed to work very well, because I've taken all of them. The others are more candid shots.
Well, I do stills and the video, so I couldn't leave the wedding until I'm actually finished doing both.
Well, it's a miracle that you do both, but
well, it's
I know you teach it.
yes, and it's if you want the best course in the world on doing videos or films, the best course I believe you can do right now after you watch this tape at home. It's there in your home. What it is, you just tune to the movie channel and turn down the sound so there's no sound, and just watch how the shots join together. And that is a fantastic course. And if you watch that every day or every week, at least once watch a film entirely, without any sound, so you can't follow the story. Just watch how the shots go together. You'll think, oh, this is not so difficult, I'll try that. And then obviously you must try. You must get a camera, a camcorder or something, and just try it out. And you'll find it's not as difficult as you think. And especially the way that I do the weddings, where I don't shoot on stills, what I'm shooting on video, and I don't shoot on video what I'm doing on the stills. That's how it's done. And as for candids, well, that's another story, isn't it? Because the candids from the wedding are on the video. That is the future, as we've seen in the videotape. That is the future. The future is here now. Not tomorrow, it's here right now. Electronic imaging is here, and it's great, and it makes extra money. Anything that makes extra money for us, the photographer, must be great. How can it be bad? There is no way. That is the best way, the best thing that's ever happened to photography, besides colour, is electronic imaging, video electronic imaging.
Yeah, when we're taking the photographs and then we're delivering them and we're showing the pictures, everyone has problems. Now you may go on for many years and not have any problems, but suddenly you have problems. And overcoming these problems and objections from people, we're going to give you a few tips. Someone comes in and says, well, you haven't photographed my great aunt. We say, well, I asked for down here any special pictures, and you didn't say about your great aunt. And said, well, you didn't tell me. You said, well, I'm ever so sorry, we did go through, and we went through a great deal, and asked you about everything you didn't say about the great aunt. But the main thing about objections is if they go through, because once someone starts to try and find fault in your work, then they tend to find a number of faults. And then people tell them more about this and more about that, and they come on to you. Now, this is not necessarily my work, but other people, because within the institute, I have to be a troubleshooter. And the best thing to do is to keep in liaison with these people. Do not just put the phone down on them. Do not ignore them. You must keep with liaison with them.
You see, there is always something to complain about. If you're looking for something to complain, you'll find it, because there's plenty of things to complain about. Nothing is ever perfect. No coverage can ever be perfect. As perfect as you do it, they'll find something to complain about if they want to. The thing is, why do they want to complain? There's something that's bothered them. Maybe nothing to do with the photography, but something else. Maybe your attitude, and they weren't happy with your attitude, and that's why they're complaining. Or maybe the prices. They thought you'd give them something free of charge or a discount, and you didn't, and that's why they're complaining. There'll be something behind the complaint. So basically, I think, it's finding what is behind the complaint, and then dealing with that.
Yeah, a lot of people want a sympathetic ear. So what you do is you get the photographs, however you've presented them, and let them go right the way through the pictures, and let them tell you everything that they are going to complain about. Absolutely everything, and then you write it down, and let them go right the way, and let them let off steam, because they can't keep at high steam all the time and keep on telling you or other photographers that I have dealings with, or not necessarily in the institute, but outside of the institute where we get problems. They can't let off steam all the time. So just let the people tell you everything about them, and then answer the questions as honestly as possible. If it is your fault, admit it's your fault, and try to rectify it in the best way you can. It may come from just giving a free 10/8 picture to something like offering a number of hundreds of pounds, if it is your fault, no matter how serious it is. If you feel that you have gone beyond a talking point with these people, then what I do suggest is that you bring a friend, a well-leveled, headed friend, and also the other people bring a well-leveled, headed friend into the conversation, and those two sort it out before you start to get to any problems in court or anything. I'm sorry to talk about bad things, but just occasionally we get a few problems within our British photography.
Well, there's the problems, but there are other objections which are good objections, like, for instance, in portrait sessions, when they've seen everything, they say, well, but we just can't choose everything. So those are the objections we have to overcome as well, that when they say they don't know what to choose, they can't buy everything. So we said, well, just take out the ones that you don't want and try and work out that way. One of the best lines I've come up with is when people say to me, well, can we come back another time? And they're lovely, but we can't buy them all now. We'll come back at a later date. You keep the negatives, right? Now, you can't say I don't keep the negatives, because that means you're not a professional photographer if you don't keep negatives. So you have to say, I keep the negatives. But I say the best results you'll get are right now, while the negatives are still fresh. Now, everybody believes that. While the negatives are still fresh, you get better results. So that is a great way to overcome that kind of an objection. And we're not lying, because fresh negatives do go off after 100 years, don't they?
Well, they do go off, and also the way you store them, they can get bag marks, and you can't store them all the time in deep freezers. But I have every negative I've taken since I was 19, and it takes me a very short time to find for the last 20 years. I can find the last 20 years, perhaps. You give me a name, I could find those negatives from 10 years ago in 1 minute, from 20 years ago in about 5 minutes, and before that, maybe 2.5 hours. But I've got every negative, and that is as good as money in the bank, keeping your negatives, because unfortunately, not everybody lasts forever, and there are some terrible things that happen, and people come in and say, well, you took this picture of my husband or my child, and I haven't got that. It's the only picture I've got. And if you've got that picture there, you can give them a great service, and you can earn money by it, but if you haven't got it, they'll curse you, the kingdom come. Charles.
Yes, well, that's, unfortunately, bad things happen. But the good things are that they'll buy the photographs. When you say the negatives are best, the prints are much better when the negatives are fresh, they will think, oh yes, well, maybe we should buy it now then, because they love the prints. Shall we show you what I do in the studio? When we're doing a portrait session, I select everything by transpose. They come back a week later, the negatives are copied onto transparency film, and, well, it's actually negative film, but they come out transparent, like a transparency, and they're put into projectors. And I think at this point we'll show you what I do when they come in to see all their portraits. This is the ultimate way of selling portraiture here in the studio. After the people have gone away and they've had their portrait session, they come back a week later and they view all the results here on the projectors. And this is how we do it. We go through all the slides that we've taken here in the studio, and show them everything. But there are 3 projectors here. 2 for the dissolve, as so one fades in and the other one fades in over it. But the third one is the most important selling tool that can be, because that is a projector which creates a desire for them to buy a canvas for the wall. What I say to them is, this is what your portrait is going to look like framed on your wall, and I switch on that third projector. And they go, wow, that looks great. Oh yes, that must have that. That's fantastic. And I go through all the other shots exactly the same way, and I change frame for each one. In this projector, it's only frames, which I've copied from small frames, which I'll show you in a minute. You just copy them on a black material in here, and in these 2, we have the slides of the portraits we have taken. Showing them in this way, one slide after the other, framed in the projector, in the frame, makes them want to buy that product. All around them, there are canvases on the wall in frames. We have also this board, which is the only place they see prices and sizes. When you look at the board, the first thing you see is the larger size, the white one, a 10x8. The small one, the 5.4, you can hardly see what it is. From the distance you're there, you can't see if it's a girl or a boy or what it is. Now, so the small one is so and so much. The next size, there's £5 difference in between each size. There's not much difference, in fact, in the prices. The best value for money is the larger one, the one which stands out the most, the high key one. And although these portraits are probably 10 years old, I still leave this board here because it works so well immediately their eye goes to the largest one and they say, okay, well the small size we'll have in that one over there. So when we talk about small sizes, it's a miniature board with all these different prints on it. The large sizes are the canvases for the wall, the frame ones. I just sit back and take their order. It's as simple as that. And it's all thanks to this third projector with a frame. Now the way we do the frames is as follows. You just take an ordinary frame off the shelf, you take out the back, so you just have the rim of the frame. You place behind it some black velvet material. Lay it there and photograph it. That's how you'll have your slide of the frame. You can either do it in slide film or negative film. You'll have a whole roll full of these frames. You'll need 2 for each shot, 1 upright, 1 horizontal. That's the way to do it. That's the way to make money from portraiture in the studio.
I'm always looking for new ways to improve my business and to improve my selling. The Photofix, the Tamron Photofix, is a wonderful tool for selling and convenience. If, unlike me, you haven't any processing facilities, then you merely have to process your negative and take that into your studio or take it to the couple's home where you're selling their wedding photographs and plug it into their television. People are used to seeing images by television, and the images that are made from this are extremely good. You can vary them in different ways. You can go through the whole negative, all your negatives, and take the order and take out the ones that they don't like. I think that's the main thing. If you ask people to take out the ones they don't like, and then you're going to get a bigger order. The Photofix can reduce size or enlarge. And by simply moving around, you can get the areas that you want for any particular enlargement. I really have found this useful, and I'm sure you will do. And now, as if by magic, a more traditional way of selling, but also very successful, the album. Presenting a nice album full of all the pictures that you took on the wedding, and going through, bringing in the bride and groom and the parents, and going through each photograph, page by page, letting them see, having a good look, talking about it, one by one, and after going right the way through, starting at the very beginning, giving the parents a cup of tea or coffee or drinks, whatever they like, whilst the bride and groom choose. We need our bridal order book, which has all the information on, which goes right the way through with the job, and we store in our files. It has our prices here, which the bride and groom have had and seen in the beginning. Also, we have here their order of what they want. It has quite a lot of information for us. The deposit they originally booked, the money they originally gave us, the deposit for these previews as well. But in this case, there was no deposit for previews. The album which they have chosen, that all goes down into the price size, and now a list of their photographs which they want in this album. Also individual pictures for folios, and then frame pictures. Everything added over to the side and then totaled up at the bottom. After taking the order through the album, we go to the parents, and we start off with whichever parent we think is going to buy the most. And let's just say that it's the bride's parents. Then we take the order in exactly the same way, leaving the groom's parents to last. We bring in the groom's parents, but we let them see what the bride's parents has ordered. They can see it. It's on the same side of the page, facing each other. And we seem to get better orders that way than we would by not having this side by side. And we've been doing this for many years, and we find that's very successful. We do go through some of my albums. I have a different way of doing some of my weddings. I have a different way of doing. I choose the 50 pictures which I think should go into their album, and give them to them straight away. And then they have. I may have taken 150, but I give them the 50 pictures, and this is very successful as well. However it works for you, try and keep a modern album, good looking, and go and get something which is different from other people, good colours, nice designs, and different leaves inside. Once again, a different cover here.
Now this is the greatest idea since sliced bread. Now you know we were doing the video at the wedding, all the moving images at the wedding, everything, the atmosphere, the ceremony, everything, which was absolutely great. All on this cassette, right here. Let's just watch it. It's connected up to a printer via one cable. Anywhere we want to, we can just stop and make a print. Because that cassette, believe it or not, it's 90 minutes, contains 135,000 images. 135,000 different shots which we can offer the bride and groom as candids of their wedding, captured from a moving video. This is just unbelievable. This is just out of this world. It's tomorrow, here, today. The future is here now.
And what we can do is grab frames from this video. As Charles says, 135,000 frames make up a 90-minute video, 25 a second. So it's like having a 25 frame a second motor drive, and you can choose from those frames. On screen now, you can see we've chosen 4 pictures, and this controller gives us the facility to grab either 1 full frame picture, or 4 quarter frame pictures, or 9 different images on the screen. And that prints out in 75 seconds to this, a pretty good hard copy image from video. It's fed in direct from the camera with an S video lead. That means that the color and the luminance are not combined, they're kept separate, and that keeps the quality up to higher than you'd see on your domestic television. It's a pretty good printer. It's 3 years old, and it's now just catching on in wedding video, wedding candids from wedding video. A full frame shot of the bride looks like this. And what we do to grab a picture is switch on this controller to input, and anywhere we want a shot, we just press the button, and it freezes it. That's now in the memory. Back to input memory, and we see the camera in live again, and when we see the shot we want, we just press the button. Now you can see movement. You can get rid of the movement. You can choose which field makes up the frame, and when you want it, you just press this green print button. If you don't like the color, you can change the color. Change the color on here. More red, less red. You can just dial it in as you want. Change the green, more green. There you are. You can do whatever you want with it. So you can get the color balance right if you've got it wrong in the camera. You can grade it. You can make it lighter and darker. More contrasty, less contrasty. When you're happy with it, print, and it prints to that setting. Or you can go to your favorite presets, 3 of them, for different cameras, different whatever. Full of easy lineup facilities with a grayscale built in, variable sharpness control, low, medium, high. You can put artificial edging on. It's brilliant. It really is. It's the Sony UP5000 Mavigraph video printer, all onto this A5 sheet of paper. Here's the picture. We grab it. She's looking down. Just keep grabbing the frame until there's one you like. That one? Fine. You want quarter frame? Maybe you could go back a little bit, Charles. I think we've lost that. That's a nice shot of the bride. Right back to the top of the tape, and run. Up comes the picture, and there. 4 pictures of the bride. She's looking down in a couple of them. You choose exactly the frame you wanted, the nice frames. You can do a few other little specials. Move this star across. When it's red, that's where you're going to replace it. Notice there's 9 stars now. So I'm just going to replace one little picture in the middle. So if you could go back again, please, Charles. No, that's good. That's good. There. Little picture in the middle. So you've got a 4-way split with a 1/9 picture in the middle. You could put a big close-up of the bride there and all sorts of groups around, all nicely facing in. It's great to make up these composites. Very easy to do. Once you've got it, you press print, just like that. Print quantity, you can change. Look, see this? Down the bottom there, up to 7. Up to 10 at a time. And if you want more, just press the repeat button.
Right, the print cost only 80 pence, and it's ready in 70 seconds. Just incredible. What value for money. And you can 4 images on that one piece of paper. Still only 80 pence. Still only 70 seconds to develop and print.
This is electronic imaging today. Look, it's better on the print than it is on screen. You can be in on the ground floor of electronic imaging for less than you think if you buy a camera and a Mavigraph like this. It's quite superb, and there are lots of opportunities to sell.
The secret of lifelong success is knowing that the force that's driving us is that of pain and pleasure. We will do almost anything to avoid pain and to gain pleasure. For instance, going to the dentist. I don't like going to the dentist because I think dentists are pain. But if I have a toothache, I think, well, I have to go to the dentist because he'll get rid of the pain and I'll experience pleasure. So that drives us in any action we do. If we carry out anything that you've learned in the tape series, if you think it'll give you pleasure, you will do it. If you think it'll give you pain, you won't do it. Remember, that is a driving force in our life. Pain and pleasure.
I like it.
Here's to your success.
Remember? Energy.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
it's part 2.
Okay, and when you settle down to what you were, go
Yeah.
for it.
Okay, some of the key areas in
Don't
this.
say okay, some of the key areas. Just say some of the key areas.
Okay. Some of the key areas in these.
Unlike many photographers, Charles Green can afford the best odd job man to make sure that the fascia is in perfect
okay,
condition
it's part
at
2.
all times. Okay, and when you settle down to what you were, go for it.
Okay, some of the key areas in
Don't
this.
say okay, some of the key areas. Just say some of the key areas.
Okay. Some of the key areas in
Unlike many photographers, Charles Green can afford the best odd job man to make sure that the fascia is in perfect condition at all times.